this is our current arrangement. I was thinking initially that I could get under the vast majority of this building in the middle with two of these lifting shores and get the side, you know, the whole side up. I ended up investing in two more. No issue there, just something I established once we got started, and they ended up on their own lifting beam. So I've got this group for the last joist here, and then this two ends share this joist, then all the way down, and these share this joist, and then all the way down to the other end. This is pretty all right. What I'm going to do when I turn this arrangement around and come through here to hold up the front is I'm actually going to combine all this lumber into one piece. So I'll put 16-footer, 16-footer end to end, and then the third from this group in the center, and then two 8-footers from, you know, like this group, one on each end, and then I'll need two more 16-footers, and that will make a butt and pass or lamination style beam that goes from under this last joist to under that last joist, one piece. And I'll pull those skid steer in here and I'll pick it up to the ceiling. I may have to be clever and remove these knees anyway, or maybe I'll work to the outside of the knees. I may have to move the lights, though we didn't have lights that close over there. But then it'll all go up as one piece, and we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 shores underneath it on one plane. It'll be a little easier in here. Obviously, the concrete, it's not perfectly flat, but it's easier to set up cribbing rather than digging. But we're at a point where we've got the notches all the way down to the halfway point. And building that beam, that's a temporary beam, so it's doing the job of the beam that we're going to build in the wall. And we'll make this arrangement permanent and have posts into the ground permanently, which are effectively doing what these posts are doing. And then we can pack up this mobile structural arrangement and leave it with the permanent structural arrangement. So it's a little bit of a swap in, swap out project. Here's our notches. We've done everything but this last block. I have cut him top and bottom to make sure that the blade wasn't getting pinched. The bottom of this is off the ground all the way. In fact, you can see that the siding opened up. I was cutting the last one and I heard some creaking, and as the last little segment let go to create a notch, the wall, all that's holding it anymore, it's not essentially hanging down by the lifted joists. It's just the sheathing boards, the tongue and groove sheathing. Oh, Christ on a fucking bike. It's the tongue and groove sheathing boards. This whole wall section is hanging still. See, it didn't quite make it all the way back to the foundation, but it just went. Ugh. We're going to install the beam and not worry about it for the time being. The beam falls on the joint that opened, so what I'll do is once the beam's in, I'll pick this back up with a bottle jack just in the window well there somewhere here, just to shut that joint, and then I'll go outside and nail the top and bottom halves to the beam and probably throw like a hurricane tie or some sort of bracket, like L bracket, from each stud up the side of the stud and then along the bottom of the new beam to either side. The thing is, this is a phase 1 project where this upper timber wall will be hanging in space, and you could remove the old foundation, which is sort of the idea. Then you can put a new concrete pad in, and then you would systematically remove those studs. You know, you put a new plate on the floor, and then you'd add, you know, put a new stud in that reaches from beam to that new plate all the way around the building, and then you'd throw a few more, you know, tongue and groove boards on it, or another, you know, maybe a plywood product that's the same thickness as they are, and then side everybody together. It's just doing things a little bit backward. For now, the most important thing is that we get the second story and knee wall. Can you see in there? You know, to there, and the roof, this, you know, the little building that's on over our heads, standing plumb level and square, and this wall sort of dangling beneath it. We don't want it to fall all the way down. This would have probably kept going if I hadn't left the foundation in place. So everything is a matter of operations, order of operations. I'm glad that I did that. I took all the, you know, I left the corner, I notched all the way along, then I stopped, left a couple, and did the last few to the distance that I needed. Then I came back to the middle and carefully worked on those in case I needed to stop I sort of was splitting where I had compromised the building if it wanted to do anything differently. You just want to be careful. Now I've left the last one in the end because this bearing post goes out, then the beam goes over, catches the ends of those joists, and the wall, you know, that joist, that the beam catches this joist and this joist, which run over. I wish that window would shut up for a second. Which run over, and that stud will no longer continue by, but it is nailed into that stud, so now it's holding the stud up. The beam comes over and the stud's on those nails. It continues up to the corner of the building there, and then it goes up in this direction and down the sidewall. So if I was cutting along to remove this, if I'd have been up here cutting, you know, I've done both cuts, top and bottom. I just haven't removed the wood. If I'd have been cutting and all of a sudden the blade got stuck and pinched, I'd know that, you know, I can't remove him because it apparently wants to close. But I was able to cut cleanly top and bottom without pinching the blade. The bottom of this wall is off the plate down there, which is, you know, all in keeping with that. But I'm going to leave pulling him out of here until I'm immediately ready to put the first piece of the new permanent carrying beam in. And that is behind me, but first I need to proceed to get one of these post to beam arrangements here. This is a Simpson post to beam connection. They meet code when you're doing that. This will be on the end of our 4x6 post going downward. How are we doing this here? Sorry, like this. This will be on our 4x6 post in this orientation going downward, and then our pair of LVLs will go through the top like that. But because you're meant to nail from both sides, what I'm going to do is, starting at the end, based on where the end's going to be in there, I'm going to measure over the 128 inches, install this guy on his center at the 128 inches mark. I'm doing this so that it is in the right orientation for there, but obviously I'll turn it over, I'll nail him all in, and then I'll install him with the bracket hanging in place. I can even bend the front of this down when I put the second layer in, and then bend it up, nail it, and then, you know, both sides will have been nailed. I won't be able to get to the outside of the building, so I'll have to put these on these as they go in. And then the last thing will be standing the post up inside. These are 15 bucks each. They are pricey AF, but it's exactly what we need for this application. So we'll put him in the right place. We'll make sure the overall length of this guy will fit into what we have notched. We'll pop that block briefly, and then we'll set this up in place, you know, ASAP. And that way, if anything should change, at least there's still a hard, solid item from where we cut the stud off at the top and at the bottom. It won't just collapse through there, which it shouldn't anyway, but it makes me feel better to work along with an insurance policy because you never know where you might have to stop for the day and leave it overnight. So this will be up there with the brackets on it, at least in this area, before we leave for the day. But we do have to weasel around behind everything here and go up the ladder ourselves and place it, and hopefully if anything, these gaps have grown because the lower section, you know, migrated downward, so we shouldn't have any kind of a war putting it in there, but, you know, this is where we're at, and let's see how it turns out. We'll see you.